What's happening, guys? Nerd Person Shooter here. So, I've been playing Nioh 3 on and off for a few months now, and I'm finally done with it. For now, at least, until the DLC comes out, which I haven't bought yet. I mean, it's not even out yet, but there's a season pass. I'm gonna wait until that goes on sale. But, yeah, I am done with Nioh 3. Aside from the last boss, which I'm stuck on, even though I've completed literally everything there is to do, every side mission, every collectible, everything, and the last boss is still too hard for me solo. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a bit. Nioh 3. Now, Nioh 3 is a game that I actually, in general, I think it's a great game. I think it's at least better than Nioh 2, just because I feel like this made more changes, whereas Nioh 2 just felt more of the same and kind of lacks an identity from the first game. But Nioh 3 has an identity all on its own. Nioh 3 brings the formula to I don't want to say an open world, but it is open world, but it's not like bloated. All the maps are basically made up of different paths that interconnect, and you can unlock shortcuts and stuff. And I really love that. I think that's how you should make open world games and not bloated, huge fields of nothing, okay? Which this game almost never really gave me. It never gave me a sense of repetitiveness. It didn't really overstay its welcome. It was only like, it's only like 50 hours or maybe 60 hours long when you do everything. And that's the perfect length for this type of game. I remember the first two Nioh games, there's like 100 hours of content. And since there's no kind of open worlds in those games, you have to like do the same types of like areas over and over again. Nioh 3, in my opinion, is the least repetitive of the trilogy. And that's great. That really helps its case. I also really love the new ninja playstyle. And it kind of gives you like a bit of an easy mode because you don't need to worry about Kai pulses, and you're a lot faster, and you can unlock things to enable you to have like invincibility frames and dashes and all that shit. So useful to the point where I hardly ever felt the need to use the samurai playstyle like the first two games. So yeah, there's a lot more variety in this in terms of weapons and combos and magic and just not so much enemy variety though. I'm a little disappointed in that regard. The enemy variety is mostly the same as the first two, and that is a little dumb. But overall, yeah, I really, really, really enjoyed my time with Nioh. I think the combat is awesome. I think the open world is great. Visually, it looks fine. It looks pretty good. There's some beautiful areas here and there, and overall, I have a lot of fun with it. And really, I can't wait until I get my hands on the DLC and I can come back to this game and level up through the DLC and then come back and beat the last boss's ass. Because literally, the only thing I need to get the platinum trophy in this game, I've done literally everything else, including like the secret trophies. All I need to do is beat the last boss, and I get the platinum trophy. So, but I'm having troubles. I'm having troubles beating him. I can only get him down to like half health. I would be able to beat him right now if I could summon people, but I can't anymore because I no longer have PS Plus. Mine expired. So, and there's no blue summon signs for NPCs or the AI co-op partners in that last area, unfortunately. But oh well, there's DLC coming at least, so I don't feel bad for abandoning the last boss at this point. I've done everything else. I've seen everything else except for the ending. So I decided to give my thoughts on it rather than frustrate myself more with this game, which let's get to the things that I don't like. There's only a few things that I really don't like about this game. Okay. First off, the story, man. I can't even explain to you the story because that is how irrelevant it felt to the experience. The stories in these games are never great, but Nioh 3 might have the worst story in the trilogy. I can't even like really like give you a summary of it. It is so, I don't want to say bare bones, but it's so uninteresting and flat that because it doesn't convey any emotion for me, I don't get anything from the story. I don't absorb anything from the story. It is so fucking bad. And right there takes off an entire point from my final score. Like, if there is nothing else wrong with this game, this would be capped at a 9 out of 10. But unfortunately, there's another thing wrong with this game, in my opinion, and that is how uneven the difficulty is. Now, when you're exploring this game, at least as a Nioh veteran, this game is rather really easy, especially when you're using the ninja stance. It is a rather very easy game for a Souls-like. Until you reach a main boss. I'm not talking about like a mini boss or, you know, types of enemies that don't respawn or NPC bosses even where you can at least like bait them into attacks and shit and bait them into openings. The main bosses in these games, and that of course includes the last boss, are so ridiculously overtuned that they are complete damage sponges and they kill you really fast. And so it's like, even if you know how to dodge everything, it's kind of an endurance. I think they gave these bosses a little bit too much HP. And that is why, throughout most of this game, I actually did summon real players while I still had PS Plus to help me through the main story. And what's weird is whenever I summon a player, we end up beating a boss in like fucking 10 seconds. I'm not even exaggerating. Like, I don't know what is going on here. And I talked about this a little bit in my rant video, my take a break rant where I kind of gave like a rant on multiple games that I was trying to play at the time, including this one. And it just made no sense to me. Maybe it's because there's no like level restrictions, so when I'm summoning someone, I'm summoning like a fucking level 200 weirdo with no life, and he's like steamrolling the bosses for me and shit. Maybe that's what's happening. Maybe they need to fix the matchmaking where you summon players closer to your range of level instead of summoning people with max gear and they just like beat the boss in like fucking 10 seconds flat for you. Like, you don't even need to do anything. So when I am playing alone trying to fight these bosses, it's frustrating. When I summon someone, it is unsatisfying. Now, you could ask me, well, what about the blue acolytes? Those are the AI co-op partners that you can summon. Well, I tried those, and I gotta tell you, those guys are fucking useless because, one, they don't do shit for damage either, like me, and two, they do not aggro the boss at all. The boss is always on you. The boss is always on the player. So it's like the boss AI literally does not even acknowledge partner AI. And it is, I don't know if that's intentional or if it's broken. And the thing that's messed up about it is that it only costs one. I forgot the name of it. Is it an Odacho cup or whatever? They're like little collectibles that you get from beating revenants and shit, and doing other things. But you can collect these things called Odachu cups or whatever. Hopefully, if I'm not saying that right, I'll correct myself with a text. But so it only costs one to summon a real player to basically play the game for you. But when you want to summon a blue acolyte, it costs you anywhere from 3 to 5, depending on their level. It's just like, it doesn't make any sense. You're wasting cups then. If you have access to like be able to play with people in co-op, the blue acolytes are completely pointless. They have no purpose. And even when you're only playing solo, they still have no purpose. So I think in terms of balance, this is the worst Nioh. But in terms of everything else, oh, in terms of story, it's probably the worst Nioh too. But in terms of everything else, combat and gameplay and overall immersion and stuff like that, this is the best in the trilogy. But honestly, I still prefer Nioh 1. There's just something about Nioh 1. I like how in Nioh 1 you play as a fixed character with an actual background, and I felt like Nioh 1 still had the best story because of William Adams' involvement and how playing as a fixed character kind of made it feel like it made it feel like it had more sense, you know. I hear people say that it makes no sense to play as a female in this game because of how the story is set up for the protagonist. Like you need, like in order for the story to make sense, you have to be a male, but you can still be a female. So it's just like, what the hell is that all about, man? What the hell? But other than that, I'm not really sure what else I'm missing. Yeah. You know what? The interesting thing about Neo 3 is that it seems to have the least amount of content, but at the same time, the content feels richer and less recycled than the other two. And it's kind of ironic to say that because it's an open world game where you collect the same shit and fight the same enemies. But I also love the side content too, like the side missions you do and meet. You can meet other people and do things for them. You can team up with other, you know, story related characters and you know fight demons with them, and um, you can complete these little mini stories called myths that are scattered throughout the world, and there's a lot of them. And I find that even though your completion time will likely be less than the first two in terms of doing everything, I feel like because it doesn't take place in recycled little areas, that it feels more like a complete game rather than a bloated one, if that makes any sense. But with those two main issues I have with the really bad story to the point where they shouldn't even bother making a story anymore. Like Nioh 4 comes out, there shouldn't even be a story, period. There shouldn't even be cutscenes. Just give you a big world to explore and be like, yeah, man, this is it. Fucking have fun. Because really, like to me, that's what all Nioh is to me. Like I don't really care about the stories in these games. Kind of like Dark Souls. I don't care about the stories in Dark Souls. I just love playing them. And of course, the even bigger problem of having uneven difficulty where the bosses are like way too hard compared to the rest of the game, which I know it sounds like a dumb criticism. Bosses are supposed to be hard, but I just feel like it's just off. The scaling is off. It just doesn't make much sense to me. Either that or I'm just not playing it right. I do admit I didn't really use a lot of techniques. I kind of spammed like the same types of shit and magic and guardian spirit powers, and I just kept it kind of like minimal because I didn't want to overwhelm myself with all these different combos and control schemes and whatnot, and I just didn't want to overload my brain, you know. And I'm the same way with Dark Souls, you know. I kind of use the same few moves and I don't do parries and shit, you know. And so maybe if I mastered more of these components, I would have been able to play through the whole thing solo. But and I don't think I should need to, you know. So to me, that's a problem. But anyway, yeah, my final score for Neo 3 would have to be an 8 out of 10. I'd give Neo 1 a 9. I know I gave Neo 1 a 10 when I first played through it, but there's no denying that the story in that one kind of sucked too, and there were like recycled stuff here and there. Neo 2, I kind of gave up like three-fourths of the way through. Neo 2 I couldn't get into. That's more like a 7 out of 10 for me, just because I got tired of it faster because it felt more of the same and didn't feel as original as 1 or 3 with the changes that 3 made. So I think putting Neo 3 in the middle at an 8 out of 10 I think is appropriate. So yeah guys, if you like the first two Neo games, I definitely recommend Neo 3. You can probably find it on sale by now. It's been like what, 5 months since it's been out, so you'd probably be able to find it for like $50 instead of 70 or whatever, $55. Anyway, guys, that ought to do it. So, I'm not sure when or what my next video will be, but I'm sure I'll think of something. Anyway, guys, yeah, thank you for watching.
Subscribe, motherfucker.